but his hand is stretched out still. For wickedness burneth as the fire, it shall devour the briars and thorns, and shall kindle in the thickets of the forest, and they shall mount up like the lifting up of smoke. Through the wrath of the Lord of hosts is the land darkened, and the people shall be as the fuel of the fire. No man shall spare his brother.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Study. We're continuing today in our study in the book of Proverbs. Let's begin reading it. We're picking up verse 7, I think. The righteous considereth the cause of the poor, but the wicked regardeth not to know it. Scornful men bring a city into a snare, but wise men turn away wrath. If a wise man contendeth with a foolish man, whether he rage or laugh, there is no rest. The bloodthirsty hate the upright, but the just seek his soul. A fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keepeth it in till afterwards. If a ruler hearken to lies, all his servants are wicked. The poor and the deceitful man meet together. The Lord lighteth both their eyes. The king that faithfully judgeth the poor, his throne shall be established forever. The rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself bringeth his mother to shame. When the wicked are multiplied, transgression increaseth, but the righteous shall see their fall. Correct thy son, and he shall give thee rest. Yea, and he shall give delight unto thy soul. Where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. A servant will not be corrected by words, for though he understand, he will not answer. Seest thou a man that is hasty in his words? There is more hope of a fool than of him. He that delicately bringeth up his servant from a child shall have him become his son at length. An angry man stirreth up strife, and a furious man aboundeth in transgression. A man's pride shall bring him low, but honor shall uphold the humble in spirit. Whoso is Whoso is partner with a thief hateth his own soul. He heareth cursing and bewrayeth it not. The fear of man bringeth a snare, but whoso putteth his trust in the Lord shall be safe. Many seek the ruler's favor, but every man's judgment cometh from the Lord. An unjust man is an abomination to the just, and he that is upright in the way is abomination to the wicked. Yep. Find that out all the time. The wicked want to do their sins, and they're annoyed at you for not. You know, they don't like the way that the uprightness of the upright is like a silent rebuke of their evil deeds. You know, and I think it's interesting that they try to claim their own righteousness. You know, I mean, they want their ways to be the right ways and the upright ways. You know, that's why we must celebrate sexual deviancy, because they want their ways to be the upright ways. But, you know, I don't understand that, though, because it makes, you know, what's the point of all the deviancy if not to be deviant? You know what I mean? It's like it's specifically going astray from really nature's path. Anyways, but let's look at other things. The righteous considereth the cause of the poor, but the wicked regardeth not to know it. And we've seen a lot of scriptures about people closing their eyes to injustice. And this is the same type of thing. When you see things that are bad, you know, they say, see something, say something, they're talking about terrorism, but, you know, we all have a responsibility to our fellow men We owe them what God would have us give, which is, the extra mile. If a man will compel you to go a mile, go with him twain. He's compelling you to go a mile. He didn't ask you to go a mile. It's compelling. It's not necessarily, like I said, that is like a lot of things. Like I say, every idle word shall men give account in the day of judgment. That's just letting you know the measure of things. Like that's how far you should go. You should go above and beyond. You should consider the cause of the poor. There's not, it's hard to solve problems necessarily by throwing money at them. Because again, men are often poor for very specific reasons. Sometimes, you got to consider the cause. Not the cause of why they became poor, but because that's not what that means. But it means their cause. Let's see if I make sure that before I tell you what it means, let's make sure I know what it means. The cause is dun in Hebrew, which one of the words for judgment. Dun. Here, I'm bringing it up. Or din. Well, and it says din up there, but down here it says dun. And that's phonetic, so it's dun. I don't know why you'd get an ooh out of it. I. That's pretty... whatever. But it means judgment or cause or plea. In the case of judgment, now masculine dubious. Job 9:29. Okay, whatever. Masculine judgment. Deuteronomy, Psalm, throne of judgment. There are different words, like there's mishpat. There's different words that mean judgment. But this is probably judgment in the sense, well, it's got quite a few senses, right? The suit, the justice itself. The cause is like the suit, their cause. They have a case here. Some people are poor because of bad decisions, but that doesn't mean they aren't worthy of our pity, And so, I don't know. But we, whether it be just poverty or all the other ways in which people find themselves short, on the short end of things when they're, especially the oppressed, people being put to extremity because, for whatever reason, actually, because most of the time, when nations move, people die, and innocent people get ground up in the machinery. It's quite terrible. That's why they're talking war, launching missiles at Iran. This is all bad. Because we are oppressing people all over the world, really, and we shouldn't. Like I said, I thought we were going to go bring democracy and freedom, and that was all BS. They lied. They never intended to do any of that. We're going to take over and tell you what to do, apparently. It's really what goes on. Most people in the news media in our country are so terrible. They don't even, there's no reporting anymore of many things that happen. They certainly don't show on the news all the dead, bloody bodies in Gaza. They certainly don't show on the news the fact that, they will keep putting out this lie that Ukraine's somehow winning. So what exactly are they winning? They haven't won any land, except maybe a parking lot or something like that. They haven't won any land. They're in the process of being routed by the end of the year. I'm counting on it. Yep. And hopefully we can just be smart enough to stay out and maybe just let World War III peter out before it gets started. And that's what problem with our leaders is they literally, they're such hypocritical, I want to swear, whatever, the hypocritical individuals. They always talk about the environment and, they want us all to drive electric cars, but they don't think nothing of blowing up thousands of bombs and stuff. Like, what's the carbon footprint on that war? When you explode depleted uranium shells, what's that effect on the environment? They're all so, we got an electric car, we got to do all this to save the world. But as soon as it's time for war, they never consider any of that. Like, all of a sudden that doesn't matter. We have an unlimited ability to make war, but you can't drive a car. Yeah, you have to stop driving a car. But they can make war. as much as they like and burn up all the resources from it. And then so they got to build more. And they'll take tax dollars to pay for it from us and from your grandchildren. They already took all our money. I mean, we're $35 trillion in debt. And the wicked do not regard to know. I mean, like whatever it is that they'll say, oh, this, that, but you can just tell they don't really care about anything except enriching themselves. I would love to turn our country's leaders over to the people that they have oppressed. I really think like George W. Bush, you should be tried in Iraq, you torturer. They should be, maybe then they won't nuke us eventually. We got such a bad reputation with the stink of us is all over the world. You've made us to stink in the nostrils of the entire world. Scornful men bring a city into a snare and a country. Scornful. They scorn God. Mostly, that's where it begins, and righteousness from there, because the wicked will say, "Oh, we don't have to believe in God to be good people." I get that. You have something called a conscience. The Bible talks about. I know a lot of Christians don't read their Bibles, so they say stupid things like, "How do you not do evil if you don't believe in God?" You don't have to believe in God. You have a conscience, and not everyone has, not everyone can overcome that conscience and do all the evil that might be possible. Some people, we only can do so much evil. But when it gets down to their evil, you can see they make very clear that's why. Why does God care about what I do with my private parts in my bedroom? Why does God care about that? Because there's nothing private in his universe. When you go into the eternity, he don't want you. He don't want it. Because we cannot be self-pleasuring, self-serving. There's certain qualities that are supposed to be brought out in us. Temperance, self-control. Not that, like I said, these aren't the worst things people do, but when they try to take the sin off the books, that's where it's really revealed. It's like, no, you're not righteous. Because no one ever became, unbelief does not make you more moral. If you're moral and you're an unbeliever, it's just because that's where you are conscience-wise. It's not because I stopped believing in God and I suddenly got more upright. That's BS. I hear that all the time. Oh, religious people are the most ugly. It's this stereotype BS urban legend as far as I'm concerned. Most of the worst religious people are actually atheists claiming to be religious. I think a lot of pastors, I've told you could just Google atheist pastor and you see what they get up to. I have a lot of hostility towards it. Because they make all these claims about religion while their buddies are running our churches. Their buddies who don't believe it, who don't fear God. Because I'm telling you, if you become a priest in order to touch children, you don't fear God. That's a godless man. But scornful men bring you into trouble, man. We're going to be in trouble. That's why I feel like we're in trouble. There's no one more scornful than genocide Joe Biden. No one more scornful. Look at his face sometimes. You see it twisted by the evil inside. If a wise man contend with a fool, wise men turn away wrath. It is wise to de-escalate. It is wise not to rattle the saber all the time. We got this. I knew we'd get into war because we have this cantankerous old man as our president, who doesn't even have the aware. How can we have this guy, get him out of office? We have amendments for the mentally incompetent. It's like this guy is a plagiarist. We let a plagiarist become president? He lied about all his account. This is just absurd. But that's what they want. They want us to feel terrible about our country, so they give us these puppet leaders who are so pathetic and awful, just to let you know, it doesn't matter who you put in there. We're in control. Yeah, well, you know what? God's in control. Well, why does he let the wicked do that? Well, it's to get me all worked up, apparently. To get me worked up. Because for me to fight against it. And you. This evil. If a wise contend with a foolish man, whether he rage or laugh, there is no rest. I'm not sure which, I assume it's me. I'm contending with the foolish, and it tends to be frustrating. A wise man shouldn't contend with a fool, okay? That's wiser. You gotta be wiser. But, sometimes actually you don't know till you start contending with someone that you're talking to a fool. And I realize that. There's some people for whom no argument will matter. You can make as good a point as you want. I'm kind of like that in a way. Because when people, like I said, if I argue with an atheist about the existence of God, they can't win with me. As far as there's no, obviously, I don't think they expect to win. As far as you might winning debates, win over me, not in the sense of you might convince some of your people you won, I might convince some of my people that I won, but what about the people that are in between? That's all that really matters, right? Because a lot of times, you have your crowd, they have their crowd, you can be say the wisest thing in the world. But if it's team, red versus blue or green versus red, whatever, I don't want to make it about politics so much as about there's a team element. I'm on this side of the argument. And the thing is, I get it because a lot of people are young. Really? Oh, wow, that's earth-shattering. A lot of people are young, though. And when you're young, as I was, you tend to overestimate what you know. A lot like Dunning-Kruger effect. It is, every teenager is a victim of the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect is the thing where you know a little bit and you think you really know a lot. And that's what happens to everyone as they become an adult, unless they're incredibly wise. And even though I knew it a bit, I didn't know it like I should know it. I didn't know just how ignorant and stupid I was. And I still am. But now I really know because I've learned a lot more. I've learned a lot more in 30 years as an adult. I'm 32 if you want. I'm 50 now. It depends on when you. I just start with 20 when I got married. That's when I became a man. When people they take up their positions, and then they argue, and they really don't know, so they just regurgitate things that they've heard, or and then all they know is that I'm on this side, so I just resist. I'll resist being convinced, and I'll throw out the stuff I know, what little I do. And if someone explains to me how that is not right, well, I'm just going to not understand that and just keep going straight ahead. That's what I mean. And you could either get really frustrated with someone like that or laugh. But the thing is, you can't beat it. You can't. There is no rest. You will never finish that argument. I've had people like that where I'm like, look, I'm done. I'm done. I'm not talking to you anymore. We have nothing more to say because all you're doing is denying everything I say and insulting me. That's your argument, and it's not a very good one. When you have to resort, I try to be very careful in all my remarks and arguments with people to not be insulting. It's not an argument. Saying you're a jerk, or whatever. That's not a point. It may be true. I am a jerk, so hey. That doesn't mean I'm wrong. I can be as big a jerk as I am. I'm still right. So, too bad. Yeah, so sometimes there's just no way through. You just got, there's no rest. So just stop. Just walk away. No fixing stupid. Well, maybe there is, but the Lord has to do it because it's like, I don't mean unintelligent. I mean stupid. I mean people who just they have intellect, but they're, let's say maybe ideologically captured by a particular idea, a particular doctrine maybe. Like if someone's foolish, Like for example, like someone, let's say they believe in hell, and I get into I'm having a contentious little discussion. I'm trying to contend from what I think the truth is. And but he doesn't really know much about it. And so at first he goes like, well, what about this? What about Lazarus and the rich man? And I'll say, okay, Lazarus and the rich man. I give my explanation. I say, okay, now I'd explain, what about this scripture and this scripture and this scripture? And they will just ignore those scriptures and say, well, what about Revelation chapter 14? And it's like, oh, okay. And I'll explain Revelation 14. I'll go, okay, now I have some scriptures I'd like you to look at and explain to me, but they won't. And a foolish man can't. And he won't because he knows he can't. And he's just arguing. He's being a fool because he's arguing and he knows he can't argue with you, but he's just doing it anyways. Just to keep up the facade that he's got. He thinks if he keeps arguing, somehow he can appear smart, or he'll get the best of you, or he'll make a fool out of you. Like I said, what it said back in the, what was it, chapter 26? About rebuke a fool, right? The back-to-back contradiction. And I'll call it that, I don't care. Answer not a fool, answer a fool. I'm on the wrong, I did get it there. Yeah. So, where are we? Oh, 29, there we go. Okay. So, leave off contention with fools. And fools, wise up, don't be a fool in your contention. You can become a fool in your contention. Like I said, if I were to just keep arguing a point, knowing I was wrong, that's foolish indeed. Or knowing I can't respond, just ignoring everything they say, thinking that if I just keep throwing things at them, somehow I'll convince them. You have to convince. I have other scriptures you need to talk to me about if you want to convince me, if you actually do. I mean, I think a lot of times they don't. They just want to argue. I like to convince. If I have an argument with someone, I don't, meaning if I'm contending an argument, civil and okay, because we are called to this to some degree. We don't want to be contentious, but we are to earnestly contend. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, spiritual wickedness in high places, right? In the heavenlies even. And so, we want to be wise. And if we're arguing with people, we can become foolish in arguments. When we stop caring about the truth, start becoming proud of ourselves, and letting pride creep in. I've had people accuse me of that, like, you're just not agreeing with me because you're too proud to admit that I'm right. No, I mean, I genuinely, I've looked at your thing and I don't. Sorry. I think actually you're projecting your own prideful refusal to look at the evidence at me. Because I did not start off believing in eternal, in the second death. I didn't start off there. Just like with the Trinity, I started off accepting the Trinity, but I didn't know anything about the Trinity. And then when I started studying the Bible, I came up with ideas that were not exactly Trinitarian, because you have to account for all the scriptures if you're going to get the right idea. And there were some critical ones I was missing. So someone shows me that, instead of being embarrassed for being wrong, I'm just like, okay, I just don't want to keep arguing like a fool at this point. You're right. You're right. Oh, it's so hard, I know it is hard sometimes to come down off your high horse and admit you're wrong. It's good for you, though. But it pleases the Lord. And you might even impress a guy if he's not so foolish. A wise man will be impressed with someone who can admit their fault. The bloodthirsty hate the upright, but the just seek his soul. I have been definitely feeling this. When it says the just seek his soul, you notice they seek my soul. It means like people are trying to kill me, but it also means people are trying to save me. They're looking for my soul to preserve it. It all depends on context. Of course, the just are not seeking his soul to destroy him. The just seek the soul of the upright out that they may save him from trouble or from whatever, like he's in jail. The bloodthirsty hate him. The bloodthirsty also hate the upright because the upright rebuke the bloodthirsty. Specifically, I used to watch Ben Shapiro. But ever since October 7th, listening to his bloodthirsty rants about how because Hamas uses human shields, it's therefore acceptable to that, and in fact even heroic, to shoot the human shields in order to get at the terrorists. That is abominable. Abominable. I can't listen to that guy anymore. His bloodthirstiness. And when I tell people about this bloodthirst, and I explain to people what I think about it, I get hate from it. People don't like being told that. Like the Jews, they don't want to be told that Israel, I shouldn't say the Jews, because there is no the Jews on this. There's Jews on one side of it and there's Jews on the other. But there is the government of Israel. And the government of Israel is, they have, out of their own lips, pronounced all the evil they intend to do. You can say, well, the other people are bad. The kids and the innocent, all that, well, they're bad seed or something. I don't buy that. It's like, people say, well, what about, the days of, didn't God in the days of, didn't he condemn the Amorites? I forgot the chief of their clan. It's the one that Netanyahu brought up. He mentioned it by name. Hold on a second. I'm like thinking back to the days of Joshua. I'm like, Aragoth, what is his name? Amalek. Remember Amalek? They even said that. It invokes meaning kill everything. Women, children, animal, destroy, absolute devastation and destruction. They have signaled their intent. You say, well, isn't that what God wants? Because he wants them on the, he's so eager to fulfill prophecy, he'll do it any way he can. God, that's what makes me sick is Christians so eager to see prophecy fulfilled, supposedly. They're so eager to see it fulfilled that they will justify genocide, they will justify murder, they will justify starving children, they will justify anything just so they can have the hard-on, of seeing prophecy fulfilled. It makes me sick. That's not how, I know the Lord. He would not be pleased with that. We want prophecy to be fulfilled, so kill him. Yeah. You think that's how it goes? Now I see how Jesus comes back in a bloodbath, because all the people on the earth are going to be worthy of it. They're going to be worthy of it because they called for blood. Makes me sick. It makes me angry. Yeah, and so I get a lot of hate now for that. Whenever you tell the bloodthirsty you shouldn't do murder, they have this weird thing of they really don't like to be told they shouldn't do murder. Like you see how worked up they get about it. And Shapiro, he's always like, does Israel have a right to exist or not? Conditionally. Have you read your Bible? I tell you, you shall soon utterly perish from off the land. That's what he said to him. It's my land, not yours. It's his. And he gives it to who he will. You sure he's giving it to you? To do what? To spill innocent blood on it? Is that why God gave you the land? It's absurd. I said, well, they took the land. Look at, you understand, they were sanctified in the wilderness for 40 years. A whole generation died off in the wilderness for their sins. Sometime in the days of Elijah, he called down fire and devoured the prophets of Baal. But Jesus said, you don't know what spirit you're of, because that's not always the thing. Just like with Amalek. It was very specific. And where are the prophets telling you it's okay, that God blesses your efforts? He doesn't, because it's a wicked nation. I've listened to their kids talk. They teach them hate from an early age. They have no mercy, no pity on those people. So when carrying out, if God were to tell someone to carry out a slaughter, it's not to be done with relish and glee. We in the Proverbs, I don't remember exactly where all of them are, but like I said, there are plenty where God he makes it quite clear. He doesn't like, when the wicked fall, don't rejoice in it. Don't delight yourself in the pain of others, even of the people you hate, because God doesn't like it. He said so in his book. So there are these people that know not the scriptures and that speak of God. It's disgusting. They don't know what God is. They have no idea. And they certainly don't know Jesus. People that are anxious to shed blood hate being told otherwise. You know, that's what all these warmongers. They want, armchair generals. They want to talk. What are you, a coward, or what? They want to puff their chests out over something that they have no. You have nothing to do with it, buddy. When you puff your chest out, it's utterly foolish and stupid. You didn't build the army, and you ain't gonna command it. Armchair generals. So I'm not for terrorists. I don't believe in terrorism. It's BS. Terrorism is what people do when they have no power. Really, if they had MX missiles, they'd use those. And then we wouldn't call them terrorists. Well, we still would, because we need a word like that, right? We need a people we can treat as subhumans. And the best way to do it is to have a word that if you put it on someone, you instantly render them, they don't have any rights. Like if they were to call me a terrorist, suddenly they could do it. They could just send a missile through my window. Or just detain me forever without charge. Because that's what they do to them. They never charge them. They don't have to charge them. We say you're a terrorist. Go to Guantanamo and stay there, rot there till you die. They've destroyed men's lives. And people, and then George Bush. I used to like that guy. I think that his buffoonery was a lot more charming before he had the blood of hundreds of thousands of people on his hands. Had a little more charm to it. It's one of the things I liked about Trump, because though he did a few things I did not, many things, a number of things I did not agree with or approve of. But he showed some restraint in the bloodlust. They had him all set up to go to war with Iran. And then he dared ask the question, well, how many people are going to get killed? Good question, dude. Good question. How many people did we lose? Well, no, they shot down a drone. Well, this time they made sure they got plenty. I think it's funny because someone was like, don't they have defenses for those bases? Yeah, they do. But they were confused. They thought that was one of our drones. That's interesting. Because some people believe that was an intentional thing. Like we let that happen. I think we did. Wouldn't surprise me. I get to think whatever I want. And I'll say it too. So the fool uttereth all his mind. Spills it all out there. Hey, I know. Never all of it though, right? Hopefully. You never want to spill all the beans necessarily. So like I said, there's times to be very forthright and come forward, and it says so. There is a time afterwards, maybe. Because sometimes I'm too caught up thinking like, well, what if there's critical information? Obviously, a wise man's going to reveal the critical information. But there could be like non-critical information. For example, like you could like a wise man might find a situation where he has to deliver some bad news to his friend, but he may not tell him all the bad news at once. Let it land first. Or he might not intermingle giving him some bad news with telling him news about someone he doesn't like. Like meaning, because it could be parlayed into rage against that person that they don't deserve. You can stir up strife by including too many details about things. Unnecessary strife. Especially if you start speculating, which fools do often. Fools will often speculate about what other people think and what their state of mind is. Just like all the fools on the news when they talk about, like, for example, I saw this inane video the other day of someone saying, what does make America great again? When do you mean? When do you have to go back? It's a stupid slogan. It's aspirational. There were some good things in the past, some bad things. Yeah, the past is not a shining city on a hill, but there were things out of the past that I'd like to see happen again, like free speech not being... I got free speech, but there are people who are trying to take it away from me. I've spoken freely and they took it down. I don't like that. There are all kinds of people saying all kinds of rotten things, and I can't say the truth about the vaccine. I've already said it. I don't need to say it again. And you know what it is because they deleted it. You know? So sometimes we keep a bit of our tongue back. Use wisdom to figure out what you need to hold back, if anything. You know, sometimes you need to spill all the beans. Sometimes you don't. It's wise to know that. A fool just never thinks and he just dumps it all the time. Just brain dump, download all the information. You can get yourself in trouble. You know, there's all kind. I mean, you can imagine not being. You know, obviously, secretiveness is sort of, you know, not really a Christian, like being secretive and being devious is not something we talk about as a virtue. And it isn't. But sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's a virtue to let the wicked be misled. You know, especially if you're doing them a favor. Like I said, if I'm hiding Anne Frank in my basement, I want to use this example. It's a good example. It's a good example because it gives you that extreme where you can see where things start to break down a little bit. And it's like, okay, now I don't want to be forthright. I don't want to tell them everything. I want to be a forthright person. I want to be an open person. Not that open. When that, you know, they want to kill her, and I can't let that happen. I can't let it happen for her sake and for their sake because it stains their souls. Even if there's no saving them, I don't know. I still must do what the Lord would have me. And my enemy and the wicked, they also are, you know, they're to be preached to. You know, the wicked have the gospel preached to them. I don't know. Well, it depends. The wicked, like I say, there's always a spectrum of wickedness. Some are so wicked they'll never hear. Some are so wicked they will, though, right? That's one of the beauty of the gospel. It's like you don't know who the Lord will touch. And that's the thing is because of the nature of the people that he does touch, you know that he touches them. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I know God's real. He touched my life in a very literal way. You know, as I've described many times in the past, I felt his power come over me. You know, and that definitely strengthens things. But there's so much more to know than just that God exists and he's real. It's really just, it's good. It's good for me to know. I needed to know that. I had to put my fingers in his wounds like I didn't want to, but I did. I didn't want to stick my fingers in his wounds, but I had to do it. I mean that as a metaphor for having some sort of concrete proof that God exists. I can't show you the proof. It was shown to me. You know, he came to me in that moment. It was an ephemeral experience. It happened and then it was gone. There was no evidence, you know, nothing except my testimony. And it's not meant to convince anyone except me. The Lord just wanted me to really believe, I guess. That's cool. I love that. That makes me feel very comforted because, you know, he sought me out. Well, I was seeking him, I thought, you know, but he was right there waiting for me. You know, just waiting for me to ask. I'd asked before, but it's weird. The Lord does work in mysterious ways, and we often do not understand. So if a ruler hearkens to lies, all his servants are wicked. Yeah, because no one will tell him the truth. You know, that's blatantly true, obvious. Because if if there was even one servant who believed in something, who thought it was important, who cared about the ruler in the country, in the kingdom, he would tell him, hey, that's not true. Like Joe Biden. You know how many times he mentioned 40 beheaded babies? There was only one dead baby, it turns out, in the whole darn thing. And probably killed by stray fire. It's terrible. They were looking for hostages to get their people back. You know, I think that they should have chosen the way of peace because they're going to kill you anyways. I remember someone saying like, oh, they tried protesting and stuff, but the Israelis just shot them. I'm like, okay, then keep doing it. I know you want to shoot back, but don't. Just like the Israelis should not have retaliated for what the Hamas did. They should have let the world see. And people go, well, you can't. It's like, yes, indeed, let it happen. No, not let it happen. I mean, they should have stopped it from happening by they shouldn't have their Gaza division escorting some politician around Jerusalem like he shouldn't have been to stir up trouble anyways. Yeah, someone asked me, what should we do? I don't really know how you fix all that. But they're breaking it. And if you break it, it may end up that, just absolute disaster for Israel. It's like, this is not 1973. This is not 1973. I know, I was born that year. We've been 50 years down the road. Iran has missiles that could reduce all our bases in the region to cinders. Not that they're about to do it, but if they wanted to, they could. A surprise attack. Just get rid of all those bases. I don't think they should. But I think we ought to take a more peaceful posture towards people in that region and stop murdering so many of them. If we didn't kill so many of them, they wouldn't feel so strongly about death to America. I was thinking about making a song called Death to America, except I would say, you're bringing death to America. I wouldn't, but I'd be singing the song Death to America, but I'm not that that's my sentiment. It's not my sentiment. But when I hear that sentiment echoed around the world, like I said back in 2000, it's like, why they hate us? Oh, they hate us because we're free. That's a lie. They want to be free. They hate us because we won't let them. That's why they hate us. People don't like that truth. They hate us because we're in their country, killing their people. We were in their country. They hate us. Osama bin Laden wrote that letter. They took it down off the internet. But he explained why they hate us. I believe him. What, are you making it up? Oh, that's no reason to hate us. That's perfectly fine. All the deaths in Iraq, all those deaths is nothing. I know they're religious zealots. All the more reason not to mess with them. Really. They would have a lot less fuel for their fury if they could go about peaceably rebuilding their civilizations. But instead we got them focused on stuff like weapons. Iran needs better, faster, longer range missiles because they've got America breathing down their neck. And we overthrew their democratically elected leader in the set. We put in the Shah. They got every right to hate us. He tortured them. We installed torturers. And Joe Biden, all his servants are wicked. They won't, he hearkens to lies. Nobody there to correct him. So don't keep repeating that. It's actually not true. A lot of people probably still believe it is true, because they just hear all this. They just throw out all this propaganda and lies. I watched it happen in real time. I watched the woman who talked about the baby who was shot in the head. And she talked to a woman who had a dead baby, who had been shot in the fight. You killed my baby. I remember her repeating the words. It's terrible. Even so, our leaders believe all kinds of lies. I heard Joe Biden the other day. He was raving about how Donald Trump said that the people who died on D-Day were chumps or losers or something. That's not what he said. That's not what he said. If a ruler hearken to lies. Yeah, and and that's the problem. I don't have a lot of optimism about putting Trump back there, because he used to listen to lies too. All his servants in regards to the medical staff, they were all wicked. He didn't have any good one around him. So he got nothing but bad advice and lies. Just like cloth surgical masks would prevent the spread of an airborne virus. You need an N95 mask. That works. But we don't have those. 6 feet away, they made that up. Made it up. It's obviously no way. You need to stay 100 feet away from someone if you don't want to get a virus. An airborne virus that's floating around. They understand that their paper masks are no different than, it's like trying to keep mosquitoes out with a chain link fence. You need something else. You need mosquito netting, which is more like N95. But even so, that's not healthy either, because you go around rebreathing your old air. And they have documented health effects, negative health effects. Your breathing way should be unobstructed. The poor and the deceitful man meet together. The Lord lighteneth both their eyes. I love that, because that's like, that it reminds me, it was something that I always wasn't quite sure if I had the right interpretation when it talked about the light of men and stuff like that, about the God that into every man, even the wicked, has given this light. The light that lightens the eyes. We mean consciousness. Let the light stream in. And of course, even if you're blind, it's just an exception to the rule. The idea is that you still have conscious life, and you still have. It's not your eyes. We would have to say it awakens their ears. Same thing. It's just taking in the conscious world. The poor and the deceitful man, and this is also a, all men are created equal kind of sentiment, which is throughout, the scriptures. You were not to be respect of persons as a known evil in the Bible. But we still practice it to this day. I think especially among the godless. They love to respect the persons, because persons are all that really matter. God isn't there, so people matter. And the more important man, the better. But really, it's curious to me that we would put the poor and the deceitful. I guess because I do think, the deceit of the wicked is especially hard on the poor sometimes, right? Because they get deceived out of the little that they have. Like some prosperity preacher comes preaching to people, oh, you got troubles, give me your money and God will bless you. But the same God lightens all of our eyes. We all are imbued with the same human spirit. The same, and so the one is a sinner and one is what we call it. Not so much. The poor is almost cast as an upright person in this context, right? But sometimes the poor is upright. It's the poor upright, better poor upright man than a rich sinner, as it said. He that is scornful and hath riches, or something like that. But yeah, they come together at one point. They may not have much in common, except their common humanity. We are all humans, whether or not some of us like to regard that. So many people do not regard the lives of others. I changed the name of my song Black Lives Don't Matter to Some Lives Don't Matter, just so I could publish it, because I got canceled for that in October of 2020. I tried to publish a song with that title. And even though it was utterly sympathetic, it's meant as a it is the protest. That's what they mean. When they say Black Lives Matter, what they mean is that they don't matter, but they should, right? Black lives should matter. But, what really matters is Christ. Our lives don't matter. And certainly not to the wicked. That's why one of the messages of the song is that your life don't matter, my life don't matter, our lives don't matter to these hypocrites at all. All they want is to profit from you, and treat you like property. The king that faithfully judgeth the poor, his throne shall be established forever. And again, takes it to the extremity in a bit of a hyperbole, but what it means, obviously the king himself is going to pass away. But as long as that throne is the place of judging faithfully, there's no reason it shouldn't endure. As long as the king that faithfully judgeth the poor, but if a king comes along and stops, it changes the nature of the throne in a certain way, right? And as it says before, and shall this throne be established forever? Really? Not the earthly throne? No. But I would say that the throne lasts forever in the sense, that the king, all kings get their rulership from God. And when a king is faithful, he, like us, inherits that kingdom with God. And so indeed his throne is established forever because his throne becomes unified with the throne of God. When you exercise judgment and justice in the earth, and we are faithful to the Lord, and he rewards us, yes, our throne, my throne will be established forever as I sit down with him in his throne. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame and am set down with my Father in his throne. Notice he calls it my throne, and then he says his throne. Just like I say, my throne, his throne. It's his throne, but my throne becomes his throne, or vice versa, however you want to say. But the idea is it becomes incorporated into it because I've been faithful. And because the throne that I was, like if I was as a king judging and pleasing God in my judgment, that throne represents the throne of God. It is like it is as if it were, in a certain sense, spiritually, because justice is being meted out there. Just as at the throne of God, there will be justice. Faithful. And with righteousness shall he judge the poor and reprove with equity for the meek of the earth. The branch. Okay, the rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left himself bringeth his mother's shame. Kids need to be disciplined. The rod and reproof. Like I said, I always make sure that they know what's unacceptable before they ever get punished for it. That's why I said, like, one time one of my kids was carving up the furniture, which I did not like. Made me mad as can be, but I couldn't punish him for it. I had to say, all right, this really makes me mad, but I never told you shouldn't do this. I'm telling you now, we don't do this. Reproof. And if you ever do it again, I'm going to whip you. But, like I said, it didn't really matter. It wasn't like he had... Well, I wanted him to make sure he could control himself. I understand, because when I was a kid, I did something very similar. I was at my uncle's house, and there was a guitar. And I put my fingernail into the wood grain, and I saw I could kind of cave it in, and it made a line on the wood. But it also damaged it, right? I kept at it. I made several lines in it. Never got caught, but... The funny thing in the end, the guitar came to me. So that's my guitar now. I got to walk around with it all the time. But it came to me because it was later on it got completely smashed. So, but it was a guitar that, both my guitars were smashed actually and have been rebuilt faster, stronger. We have the technology. All right. The king that finally judgeth the poor faithfully. Okay, we did that. Rod and reproof. If you don't take charge of your kids, they're going to run and do whatever. And also, they're going to be influenced by the bad kids. Especially if they're going to public school as small children, which I can't recommend. Like I said, unless you want to talk to a 5-year-old about sex. Because you literally can't send your kid to school. I mean, even when I went to school in the 70s, well, I started going to school in the 70s. When I was a little guy. In the first grade, I got sat next to a little girl who had some of the most explicit sexual jokes I've ever heard in my life. And maybe the only sexual jokes I've ever heard in my life. Literally, she's got all these pornographic jokes. So I remember kids going up to me, do you know what this is? And one of the first rhymes I learned in school was, I love you, you love me, homosexuality. People think that we are friends, but we're really lesbians. And I didn't really know what it meant, but I learned it. I learned it right away in first grade, because apparently the kids all think it's really important you know about gay stuff and sex. I don't know why, but everyone wanted to tell you. And I doubt it's any different now. I mean, that was first grade. I suppose it's moved up to kindergarten. And that's why I can't recommend school. Plus, my kids aren't fish. They need to be educated. They don't need to be schooled. Schooling is to make people little widgets in the machine that makes them obedient little foot soldiers for the state. That's why the Prussians invented public school so they could feed their military machine with nice square pegs. Okay, and you're made to stand in lines and get used to it. To this day, I always marvel, and I talk about this all the time. I teach my kids, and I demonstrate it over and over again. I love it. I teach them nonconformity. Don't just get in lines. You find out what that line's for. Where's it going? Is there another line? That's how people. How many times there'll be a table. I go to wrestling tournaments, so this is something that bugs me. There'll be like a table. And there'll be like 4 people sitting at it, and there'll be a line at one end of the table. And each of those people, one at one place, he has the name of like 5 or 6 teams. The next guy has 5 or 6 teams. There's supposed to be 4 lines. And if you're on one of those teams, you can get in that line. I walked past all those people with dirty looks and went up to the far side of the table where my team was and got mine. And then the next instant, that line was busted. It just disappeared. You know? And it seems like a small thing. It may seem like a small thing, but to me, it's a big deal because I was always very self-conscious. I grew up in school. I followed the rules. I didn't, I never got in trouble. In football, I never got a penalty for not following the rules. My coach told me, if the ball ever comes to you in the front line of the kickoff team, you just fall on it. And I caught it on the fly and just went right to a knee. And they were like, why'd you do that? I was like, Coach, you told me. Because they assume most kids would just take the ball and run. Not me. I did what the coach told me. That's how I was. I had to learn to not always, respect authority. Because authority doesn't always get respect. All right? Just because someone's in authority doesn't mean they should be. And also, some things are not really authorized. There's like I said, there's this fake line. This is based on you all being dumb. That's all it is. You're just not thinking. You're just lining up like sheep. Just line up. Just like lemmings. Just walk off the cliff, I guess. Could be box cars to take you to gas chambers, but you're in that line. You got to get in the line. So I said, it's like I always admire the kids that could give the school bus the finger. I do. Because I was not that kid. I'd be terrified. I think they would come after me and get me. They probably would. But rod and reproof give wisdom. It's helpful when your parents tell you what you should and shouldn't do. Yeah. And also, but like I said, don't be such a sheep. Be a sheep for the Lord. Wise as serpents, harmless as doves. I did no evil. I did everyone a favor by skipping out on that line. I'm not cutting. I never would cut. If I went and I found it was just one line, I'm like, okay, we're waiting. Sometimes you got to wait in line. That's the way. I agree with that fully. Sometimes I do. But I'm going to make sure. I'm going to find out and I just do it as a small point to teach my kids, don't just do what everybody else is doing. It may seem authoritative. It may seem like, well, this is what we got to do. Find out for yourself. I know these days they hate reading. They don't want you to do your own research. Don't do your own research. We used to tell people that all the time, to do your own research. Find out for yourself. But now they're like, no, just listen to authority. Are you insane? What country do you come from? How did America become such a bunch of just evil tyrants? And people just clamoring for tyranny? Probably because we're soft. That's probably it. We've softened, and now we want, and also we gave, honestly, it has to do with women. We gave women the rights, and I'm not, and the problem with it is they have a different perspective on things, and they've basically voted to give themselves all kinds of benefits. I mean, all of society spends all this money on women and their children, and I'm not saying we shouldn't spend money on kids, but they vote a certain way. And it's quite clear. And so society is softer because the people in it, women are softer than men. Period. Some women are hard, yeah. I'm talking about averages. I'm talking about broadly. Not you, not me, not the other person who's that hard-nosed woman. I know. My wife's pretty tough. She gave birth to my tough daughter. My wife always likes to remark what a tough girl she is. She has another word for it, but I'm not going to say it. And, I like strong women. My mom always used to say, well, you have a problem with strong women. No, Mom, I have a problem with you and your wickedness. But I like strength. I like being married to a woman who I see as strong. She's especially strong morally and emotionally. My wife is not particularly, they say women are emotional. Not my wife. Not that she doesn't have emotions, but she's not emotional. She's not like, oh. I'm actually more emotional and dramatic than my wife. Believe it or not. That's a confession I don't like making. But it's true. I'm more likely to get teary-eyed. Much more likely. And I love her. I love my wife. She's just perfect for me. Thank God none of my children bring my wife shame. Imagine being ashamed of your kids. I tell you what, I look upon a lot of adults and my eyes see shame. It is a shame the way these kids are coming up. Absolutely no discipline. Everyone's always like, I want my kids to be like yours. Well, then do what I do. Discipline your child. See, next time he swears at you, belt him. All right? And you say, well, I swear I don't want to be a hypocrite. Just be a hypocrite. Just make me. Say, no, that's for adults. When you get to be an adult, you can swear. I'm going to swear, but you don't swear, kid. Just like there's a lot of things Dad does that the kid can't do. I used to never use foul language around my kids, but during the pandemic, my willpower died as far as that goes, and I just started cursing a lot. Not cursing, but using profanity. I generally don't curse. I've laid a few curses. I shouldn't, because the Lord says, bless and curse not. But sometimes, my curses are general, so it's more like like bring that thing, that power structure. I do think I start feeling like I want my horn to be exalted. And what do I mean by that? I want to have a bigger voice. I don't really want it, to tell you the truth. I don't like attention. But I'll let it happen. I don't understand, like for me, it's like, I don't mind being on stage because you're not being paid attention to on stage, actually. It's like a show. It's like it's not personal. Everyone's far enough away. I don't mind being watched like that. It's whatever. It's more of like talking to people after the show that makes me feel very uncomfortable. Just because I don't know, I never know what to say. I realize, well, I do know now. I know what to do. When people pay you compliments, what you do is you talk to them about themselves. What do? You just take an interest in them. People love to talk about themselves, and if they're making you uncomfortable, just get them on what might be their favorite subject. Not everyone is going to fall for that, but correct thy son. Oh, I skipped a verse or two. When the wicked are multiplied, transgression increaseth, but the righteous shall see their fall. Oh, Lord, thank you. Let's see it. Because transgression is on the move. I do think, we do. I used to say, things aren't much more evil than they have been throughout history. They're not. But a bit. We've certainly seen examples. Like I did my song, Welcome to Sodom. But I took on the totalitarian side of Sodom as my focus. Because I really do think that there was a totalitarian spirit there. And we see that now again. Totalitarian in a wicked way for unrighteousness. It's where all must submit. And so when they say we'll convert your children, they mean it. They mean it. They're going to convert them away from Christianity and to immorality. This is what they intend. I even got in an argument with a homosexual gentleman who basically said, he was angry that kids were ever forced to take religion, meaning people forcing it on the kids of natives, right? They go in and they set up a school and then they want to force the kids to come and they indoctrinate them with Christianity. And he didn't like that. And I agree. I don't think that's how you make a Christian. You don't just take a child, train up a child in the way they should go. Yes, that's for me, as a parent. For someone just taking a kid and trying to shove Christianity down their throat against their parents' will, I'm definitely against that. Okay, I'm against that. I don't do that to other people's kids. If someone wants to If they want to preach to their kid, they can preach to their kid what they want. Of course, my children know the guy. I mean, I don't keep it a secret by any means. I hope I never get that impression. But like I said, we don't want to cram it so down their throat so much that it becomes odious. If I start cramming donuts down your throat, if you like donuts, or some other thing you like, take anything you like, if it's lasagna. I remember it happened to me. I used to like peas for some reason as a kid. I liked peas with butter. I thought they were real yummy. My mom used to make them real good. They put like onions, like scallions, a little, and then they have peas and butter and some salt. And I used to like it, and then I had her make me a whole thing of it, like a pound. And I didn't like peas again for years after that experience, right? And you can make Christ odious to children. Now, one of the things that he then revealed to me was that because we did that to them, he thinks the homosexuals have a right to shove their beliefs about sexuality down our kids' throat through the school. And I was like, no. If it was wrong for the Christian to force his religion on some unbeliever's child, it's also wrong for you to force your beliefs on my children. I'm like, and it's absolutely wrong. And if you can't recognize that, you're as beastly as everything you say you hate. Everything you hate about Christianity is you. You are taking on the behavior that you said was oppressive. I don't agree with that. I don't oppress my children. My religion, it's like my mom, she wanted to make sure, I think she maybe wanted to make sure I wasn't gay or something. So she wanted to make sure there were playboys in my path. My dad had told me to stay away from girls, and he wanted me to be morally upright. My mom didn't think that was, I think she wanted him to be wrong. So without his knowledge, she would have dirty magazines in my, and so, I don't know if it was, I say without his knowledge, I'm not absolutely certain. Now, I think early on he wouldn't have approved. Nah. No, she exposed me to it. But my point was, there's a lot of ways you can, like when you shove religion down your throat, kid's throat, you can make it odious. I remember what I was going. But she left it around for me. I do that with my religion. I leave my religion around so that they can get into it. You know what I mean? So it's on the coffee table, it's in the kitchen, it's just all over the house. So the kids inevitably get into the religion because it's just everywhere. It's like if you leave dirty magazines around. It's out, but it's for good. It's like I got Bibles, I got Bible studies, there's Bible music. This is all just, we're all just saturated in it. And that's it. Now, I mean, that's not all we do. I don't just leave my religion, but that's part of what I do. Meaning, all the secrets they find out about mom and dad are the secrets are the things they believe about God. I mean, hey, what's this? What's that? There's no, that's what I want them. If they're going through my sock drawer, that's what I want them to find. You know what I mean? My faith. I want them to go through my life and encounter the Lord through my encounter of the Lord. But I don't need to cram it down their throat because it's a wonderful thing. It'd be like, much like pictures of naked ladies, you don't have to cram them down a young boy's throat. He will. You kind of do though. Actually, honestly, I had it's funny. My initial instinct was to look away. I remember that now. To look away. I remember when I was a kid. I was in the first grade. I was hanging out with my two friends. I went over to the house of my one friend with another friend to play. And we were in the basement. And he had a younger sister, about 2 years younger, so she's like 5. And so they start doing this game where they tell her to take her clothes off, and they use cameras to take her picture. I never saw her naked because I hid my face the whole time. And they made fun of me, but I'm not trying to toot my horn. That's just the way I was. People had to kind of shove pornography into my face and shame me into looking at it and encourage me, to take on this burden, really. Because I remember looking at the magazine, I felt this feeling in my stomach. It was like such a, it so messes with your mind as a young child when you look into the eyes of an adult woman who is staring at you with a sexually inviting expression on her face. And every woman who ever engages in pornography, I want to let you know that you're a child molester. You molest children. You expose yourself to children. You can pretend that, oh, I'm not responsible for that. No. You are as responsible as anyone, profiting from such filth. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself, and you should also know you are an instrument in the corruption of small children, and you will answer for it. You know, I've had a life of misery because of pornography. I mean, it's been a miserable part of my life. At times it's made my life so miserable I wanted to die. You know? And it's like, and you stare into the camera with your sexy eyes and taking off your clothes, and it's like, this is a little boy. Come hither, little boy. Look at me. Whore. Oh. We got so many whorish women in the world today. It's not even funny, right? Girls, they think they're going to make a living taking off their clothes. I'll tell you what, I'm so happy AI is coming in. Hopefully it'll ruin it. You know, ruin it for them all. Destroy the business, you know. There's always going to be people like, I want to talk to a real girl. Until they seem better than real girls, right? Because the real girls are a problem. Women are difficult. Dealing with a real woman. I mean, I understand why guys go with prostitutes because they don't want to deal with a real woman. I had too much pride for that. That's the only reason I never went to a prostitute. Really. Too proud. You know? I made a mess here. I can't leave it. All right. I just spilled a bunch of olives. All right. We're at the end, aren't we? Oh, we're 12 minutes over. Wow. Let's you know, I don't correct your son, and he will give you rest. He will give delight to your soul. I've talked about this before. It's like my well-behaved sons. Whenever I go someplace and I see some kid being a brat, or you know, or in wrestling when people say their kids won't listen to them, or I'll be around and people tell me this story, or I'll see kids misbehaving, man, makes me so happy. That aspect, I'm glad. Unfortunately, I wish it was that alone would suffice. You know, I've often said to my wife, you know, I wish that you could just do everything for me and I would just be completely satisfied because I have you, you know. And I mean that not in a sexual way. I just mean in the sense of like fulfillment. I wish I was just fulfilled because of my wife and my kids. Well, I don't wish it. It'd be, like I said, I have a weird conflict within myself of the hunger. Blessed are they that hunger and thirst after righteousness. Those who seek God's kingdom. You know, if you seek him diligently, I've sought him. He gave me his power. You know? And so it's funny. It's like you can know all these things and still be just tormented. Because it's like, I know he's going to fix it all, but it's like, oh, I'm in such a strait until that be fixed. You know? And I see how the Lord himself, he was a man of sorrow and acquainted with grief. And the Lord has acquainted me with that also. It's part of, you know, how else, it's interesting, because it's like, you know, it's like that's said of him. A man of anguish, sorrow, acquainted with grief. That's why I always say they always just show him smiling all the time. I have no doubt he smiled. But also, I'm sure he felt every other thing that it's normal for a man to feel in the course of human events. You know. But yes, correct your son. It's not only is it good, like it's also like having when you correct your sons and your daughters, of course, your children, and it means you're going to have a better relationship with them down the road. Because kids don't appreciate being left to themselves. They don't actually. They don't appreciate not being guided. Why'd you let me go astray? I know someone who felt very betrayed by their parents allowing them to go astray in a certain way. It would be, and I don't want to get into the detail. It's too terrible. But yeah, that you gotta correct. Even when I got into pornography, my mother, she showed it to my dad. See, what should we do about it? They didn't correct me. They should have corrected me. But she didn't want to. She just wanted to prove, see, you can't stop it. Boys will be boys. They're going to get into porn. Yeah, thanks, Mom. Thanks. Real wise. That's the problem. Some people think they're smarter. They just do. They think they're smarter than wisdom. Because they've bought into the corrupt wisdom of the world, which says what people don't know doesn't matter, what people don't find out about, what's done in secret, stolen waters are sweet, all those things. Okay, I guess we'll start off the next one with where there is no vision. I really want to talk about it. It's kind of annoying to me to stop right now. I really wanted to talk about that. We'll get to it. We'll probably finish this chapter up tomorrow. And then we're almost done with Proverbs there. We're getting down to the end. There's only 31 chapters. So I'm not sure. I think I'll do a minor prophet. Because I did that reading of Amos, and I really wanted to talk about it. And then I don't know what we're going to do. So I'm sort of tempted to do another. I really feel like we need to be in the Old Testament, but I also want to. I want to do the Gospels again. I want to go back to do Matthew. It's been 5 years or whatever, I don't know. I actually couldn't even tell you how long it's been. I started this it was 2019, right? It was before the pandemic. Right. Anyways, thanks for joining me. Look forward to being back again tomorrow. Remember, the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy.
But his hand is stretched out still. For wickedness burneth as the fire, it shall devour the briars and thorns, and shall kindle in the thickets of the forest, and they shall mount up like the lifting up of smoke. Through the wrath of the Lord of hosts is the land darkened, and the people shall be as the fuel of the fire. No man shall spare his